what is the future of IndyCar going to look like? Now, obviously, the reason we're asking this question is because just last week it was announced that the IndyCar teams, I guess, there's only two though. So, like in terms of engine
Yeah.
manufacturers, so Honda and Chevrolet, along with IndyCar, have stopped the 2.4 liter engine program after spending millions and millions in development and testing now this past year of that engine. It is being said that IndyCar will simply adopt the hybrid system onto current engines moving forward. I don't think a date was announced or a timeline was announced for that. But yeah, and then and then the IndyCar teams, Penske, all of these teams will be expected to adapt their current DW12 chassis to accommodate for that hybrid system. What is the identity? And the question coming out of this for me, at least, because Indica was never a series that was okay. I am like the pinnacle of motorsport, the pinnacle of innovation in motorsport, but they always kept up with the automotive trends in general,
Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of, right? Um, and which is why it's always about getting more automotive. The challenge for IndyCar has been to get more automotive manufacturers involved with the sport, and they haven't succeeded at doing that. They failed with Toyota, they failed with Ferrari, and they failed with other manufacturers who might have shown interest to come in. So it's just about Honda and Chevrolet, and both the teams said at the very start of the program that hey, starting 2023, 2024, we won't be able to provide more than 8 to there just isn't enough budget for that. So that was also one of the reasons why this had to finally come to a halt after wasting so much money already on it,
Yeah.
which seems absurd. But anyway, to answer the question, what is the identity of IndyCar moving forward? Up until now, it's just been based on okay, we are. I mean, it's safe to say they are one of the best racing spectacles, the greatest racing spectacle in open wheeler racing, at least. But what is it moving forward? Because the sport has basically been stagnant. So they've used the same chassis, the same engine for 10 years, but I'd say the sport has been stagnant for 5 years. That being said, the racing has deteriorated at all. We just saw this season, it went down to the last race. Great season overall, great Indy 500 and whatnot, right? So where does IndyCar go from here? Does it just take the L and hope that its followers and the people, watching the sport, new followers, forget about it? Or does IndyCar do something with it? Because there is also a risk with introducing the hybrid system, and that is the current grid, which is still because even now, like the engines are subsidized by IndyCar, so both the manufacturers, Honda and Chevrolet, basically are losing money running these IndyCar
Yeah.
programs, right? Uh, because and then the risk of introducing the hybrid system is, can all the teams afford that? So right now we have on average I think 27, 28 cars on the IndyCar grid per race, and an additional 5 for the Indy 500. And introducing the hybrid system is basically introducing additional costs to every single driver's race program, every single car's race program in IndyCar. And it begs the question, will smaller teams fall out if that is done? Because if it's not introduced across the grid, then you're looking at a weird BOP in IndyCar, which is not going to be fun for a couple seasons until all cars have the hybrid system, right? So there's all these different aspects to this question, but obviously we are waiting for your view on it after I stop
Yeah.
talking.
I mean, I see. I haven't been following IndyCar for as long as other people, or even as long as you have been. But they have been using the same chassis. They have been using the same engines for forever, and I don't know if there is a plan for a chassis change or
No, it came up, like the question came up when they were
yeah.
doing the engine change. But they said, oh no, we're just gonna adapt the current chassis to fit the new engine,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
we'll go
Because
from there.
The biggest problem with IndyCar is budget. I mean, I know from budget is the biggest issue in motor racing, right? Yeah,
All of
but
motorsport,
but
yeah.
for IndyCar, it's especially unique. For IndyCar, I mean, what these teams like the budget that these teams have. The only reason IndyCar is working right now, it's running right now, is because they can go on with a low like teams can go on with a low budget. You see so many smaller teams come up in IndyCar, and like we see teams just doing a couple of races because they can afford to do that. just doing the Indy 500 like that, right? So again, introducing hybrid systems, as you said, will only increase the budget. And I mean, at this point, I'm just repeating what you said, but I don't see how IndyCar can move forward without, I don't know, doing something.
So, like, I guess the question changes here, right? Because I gave way too much information. It's like basically we're now speculating what should IndyCar do to move forward and I guess stay relevant or stay just as exciting and continue to grow its consumer base.
The innovation that I don't have any answer for that. I'm so sorry. I mean, IndyCar produces good
Because
racing. IndyCar is not growing anywhere in any direction as such. But introducing, I mean, if you risk your basic, I mean, if you risk your basically if you risk losing out your participants, your manufacturer, your the teams that are participating with you in your championship, sorry, then you lose the championship. And if you don't innovate, if you don't do anything different, on growing as such. So it's a very fine balance. And
and it's just not even about doing anything different. It's also about simply keeping up. Like even a series like IMSA that does not race as many times, doesn't have the budget of IndyCar. Even they have been able to attract more manufacturers in the top class. They are having more and more cars every year, and they have gone
yeah,
hybrid as well. So WRC has gone hybrid. Okay, you can't expect ARA to go hybrid anytime soon. um, you know, but all the other racing series are more or like
manufacturers, yeah.
manufacturers per se than IndyCar. So IndyCar's facing a lot of problems, and marketing was one of the other problems, which apparently, according to news sources, Roger Penske and his team received a letter from five top IndyCar drivers or the Union of IndyCar drivers, something like that. I mean, there isn't an actual union of IndyCar drivers, but something like that regarding upping the marketing uh, efforts of IndyCar. So IndyCar is in a weird place where it has multiple problems, even though it has been doing so great as a sporting
Yeah, I mean,
spectrum.
I think IndyCar is just sustaining itself, you know,
Off of
yeah,
that sporting
just
spectacle,
go
yeah.
on with it, just meet your targets, just, match up your costs, and don't grow till there's anything, is there, till there is any need for it. Just do what you're doing, sort of. To do anything different, to do basically to meet the market and the industry as such, they would need more manufacturers to get involved, because that's the only way the budget increases. That's the only way anything innovative or anything happens in any direction as such, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And I think IndyCar is obviously, I think IndyCar just announced the TV series 100 Days to IndyCar, which in collaboration with CW, which I had not even heard of until they announced that and Vice. So, so they are making efforts, but I think the two things they really need to tackle is, okay, how do we get more manufacturers and how do we allow teams to grow from a technical standpoint, and that is by how can we introduce new technologies at a very low cost, so that we don't lose as many participants, because I think IndyCar would like to have somewhere around 24 cars on average per race, even if they lose out a few teams for a couple of years until those hybrid systems are available at a cheaper price later on,
Yeah,
or until other teams can build their budget. That IndyCar is facing is one, marketing, which seems that starting to tackle. But I also believe that the teams themselves need to spend a lot more on their own marketing, because you have to realize that, okay, yes, even before like F1 started spending on its marketing, the team started much earlier on and capitalized on the fact that F1 was not doing a lot of marketing, and they grew their marketing departments to be really strong and to have a really good presence across social media, with fan engagement and all of that. And it seems most of the marketing that is coming out of IndyCar at the moment is by drivers doing it themselves, whether that is, drivers doing podcasts like the Bus Bros podcast, or drivers posting on their own social and things like that. Not a lot of, social media content is being created by even the teams themselves, let alone IndyCar. So I think it needs to be a two-pronged approach where even the teams get involved. I understand the budgets are low, but that is one other way where how you can increase your budget in the future, right? So like even a team like Glickenhaus did a great job with their
Yeah,
social media when even before they started out in WEC. So there's a lot to learn, I feel, and some of these IndyCar teams need to jump on that ship of that marketing ship and really grow their brand across the sport. And again, like I said, the second thing is getting that manufacturer in. Now, when the Ferrari thing happened, when Ferrari apparently approached IndyCar and they said, okay, we're not interested in this because we can't build our own chassis, right? I wonder what are the different reasons why other manufacturers, especially like someone like Toyota, who is involved in NASCAR, who does have an engine, who has multiple programs in multiple motorsports across the world, why are they hesitant to enter IndyCar? Why are they saying no over and over again? Because you would imagine someone like Toyota or even Ford, for the matter of fact, might want to invest in IndyCar. And until and unless, like, obviously we know and we can't share our views on it, and it'll just be speculation, so it's kind of pointless there. But it just begs the question, what is IndyCar doing that is stopping these teams from investing? Do the chassis rules need to be opened up? Does Dallara need to become just a chassis
yeah,
supplier instead of, for the series, instead of, being the sole supplier, being one of the three or one of the four suppliers of the LP2, where I think we have like an Oreca chassis and some other chassis to go along with that in endurance racing. So it just begs the question, what does really IndyCar need to do to continue pushing the technical side of things instead of simply allowing the teams
yeah,
to survive?
absolutely. And I mean, you started with marketing, and I just want to add the only team doing some sort of marketing in IndyCar is McLaren, because they have a Formula One side to it as well, and they have the budget and they have everything. And even IndyCar themselves, like, I mean, even the tweets that they put out are not, like, there's nothing happening. They put out a tweet or an Instagram post for the pole sitter, and they put it out for the grid, and they put it out for the result. I don't think they put out any more tweets during the race, or even like they don't put it out very often. So even
They are not engaging with the community themselves, and that is where the issue
5
lies.
additional tweets will gradually make a difference in that sort of way.
Yeah, and I think they need to realize something like Formula One is that they need to put out content on YouTube.
Yeah,
They have a free
yeah,
resource that they're not YouTube. And the funny thing is, I was just so I went to the Chassis Sim boot camp, which I told you about. I was just in Indy last week, and guess where the Chassis Sim boot camp was held? It was held in the offices of the IMS production building.
yeah.
And I have never seen a quieter production house. Obviously, it's off season and all of that, but yeah, I think IndyCar has a lot of problems on its hands. And while things seem great from a sporting perspective, it they have to do something. I mean, Firestone, I think they're bringing like green tires or sustainable tires or something to the sport next year or the year after. I think they tested it at one round this past year. So Firestone is doing things, but again, the technical aspect. I believe that even the teams would want something to move forward. Even the teams, I'm assuming, get bored running the same car over and over again, which is why we've seen Andretti and Penske really branch out into other sports, whether that's Formula E, Extreme E, and all of those, in order to grow their racing
Yeah,
programs.
and I mean, at the same time, with zero innovation and zero sort of things to catch on to, you end up with the hierarchy that exists, and the hierarchy just gets stronger. Since there's no jeopardy, since there's no sort of gray area, the lower teams can't really catch on, and they can't really make the best out of it as such. And the top three remain the top three, and the fourth team can only reach the top three if they have the budget. Sort of what McLaren are doing. I mean, it again, it becomes just a sustainable sort of sport which doesn't go anywhere.
But like sustainable until when? When does an IndyCar fan say, all right, like yes, the racing's great, but I'm sort of like bored with the sport because there's nothing else
Yeah.
happening. Because let's be honest, you don't. Because let's be honest, you don't watch. Yes, racing, having great racing is the biggest part of watching motorsport. But how long before you say, I don't
Yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. I don't know.
So yeah, we'll see, we'll see